Well, welcome everyone. Medina here from Arise Humanity, and I have a beautiful guest today. And this lovely lady has been on my channel previously, and we have had some lovely chats before. Today, we are going to be covering some really important areas about things that are happening in the world at the moment. So, big welcome, Jane Rhoda here, who is an amazing sex and relationship counselor and an author. And she has decided to talk to us today about all aspects of relationships. And I'm also very excited because we are going to announce something as we're talking. So a bit further into our chat, we're going to announce that. But welcome, Jane. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And I love our chats.
It's great to be here, Medina. I acknowledge your work and what you're doing. It's important.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I feel that at the moment is perhaps the absolutely crucial moment in time for people to discuss the topic of relationships, because there seems to be, and I'm sure that you're seeing this with all your clients, I know I am, there seems to be with humanity at the moment a great divide happening between people. I would describe it as like a consciousness divide. So it's a divide in consciousness. It's whether people are pro the thing that you put in your arm or not for that. They have, whether they have a different medical opinion on things. That's part of the divide. Their opinion on what is truth, what is not truth. It's interesting because the Senator Jared Rennick just did a post saying, "We are living through arguably one of the greatest divides the Western world has ever experienced." And he puts it as those who watch mainstream media and those who don't. So that was his way of describing this divide. And there are actually so many different ways you can describe what this divide is, what this consciousness division is between people that we see happening at the moment, where it seems to be harder and harder to resonate and align and communicate with other people who have a very different consciousness. So speak to this, Jane. What are you seeing here? And big welcome.
So all of us, even relationship experts, are challenged by this.
Yes.
Totally challenged by this because it's like mixing water with oil, right?
Mm.
So I'll tell you, with my own experience, I think I think a lot of us have been through a lot of grief and anger and upset regarding what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us that'll be watching this channel, we have had their family have had this, and we've warned them and we've talked about it and we've had pushback around it. So from my perspective, what happened with me was I could see I went into feeling betrayed, like disrespected, betrayed. I went into all these stories personally.
Ignored.
It's,
Yes.
it's like, my opinion doesn't matter. I reversed back into some of it's like my childhood cries. It's amazing. Like I've done so much work around this, and this brought up um, a lot of that. And I also went into, because I have two sons who did this, I went into anger and
Mm-hmm.
grief.
Mm.
Uh, like it knocked me around. It was like something died inside of me, and I went into like trauma.
Yeah.
And so everybody's been dealing with these emotions with the people that we love, people we care about, and also bewilderment. It's like, but can't you see this is gaslighting? Can't you see that this is coercion? Can't you see this is bullying? Can't you see that this doesn't make sense? You know, it's a bewilderment in a way. We're left bewildered. And so I'm just sharing with my family because we've actually come through it really well. We haven't got a divide. It was sort of, we went through sort of turbulence, and I expressed how I was feeling. You know, I feel betrayed. I feel unheard. I feel, you know, I had these conversations with my boys. And I guess because they're more conscious, one of my sons is extremely conscious, he would listen. And my youngest son said to me, which was really amazing, he said, "Mum, we are determined, despite our differences, that it's not going to break up our family."
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right.
So that's very, very mature thing to say for a young man, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think this is something we all need to say to the people that we love. And it's like, I love you, you know, where I am a stand that despite we're seeing things really differently, that this is not going to break up our family.
Well, my dad and me had the same conversation where we agreed that we have completely opposing viewpoints on the way reality is, on how we perceive things in our world, on the way it is. And yet we came to the conclusion that, you know, the important thing underneath that is that, you know, we really love one another, and we're still going to obviously, you know, have our relationship, communicate and things, but we just won't. We've decided mutually not to go into those areas because it just doesn't get anywhere, because I don't perceive the world in the way that he describes it, and vice versa. And so there's sort of like it goes nowhere, and it's in some ways better to just not navigate that when both of us are not really getting any there's no results from discussing those things together, and we focus on other things. And sure, the conversations are much shorter now, and there's less to discuss and talk about, but you're not navigating areas like that are, I mean, he doesn't, he's an older generation, you know, 92. He just doesn't want to hear anything that I want to say about the topic of what's happening in the world. So it's like, you know, it would have, if he was open to that, we could maybe go there and discuss it more and that sort of thing, but he's just not. And I think that's also his generation too. But, you know, I'm also honoring, because he's in the later phases of his life, and I don't want to cause him, you know, to feel badly in these very final stages, particularly as he's had quite a few of these, and who knows how much longer he'll be around for. So yeah, it's tricky.
And it's about agreeing to disagree.
Yes. And knowing that love is the fundamental and important thing, that is the foundation of everything. And those opinions are different, and you can honor the differences, but the love itself and the caring doesn't change.
And speak to somebody's values. Now, we do know that there have been some people we've spoken to that might have been thinking the other way, but through the way we've spoken or the questions we've asked, they've started to think. So it doesn't mean to say that we don't speak to people who are on the other side. Like, you know, there's constantly openings to ask questions to people too. And also, like, even with my sons, I still say things, but you know, my oldest son's is very clever, actually. He says, you know, I'll say, oh, have you heard about this and that and that? And he'll just say to me, oh, thanks for sharing, Mum. That's all he'll say. Thanks for sharing, Mum. So, because they've had this conversation that I've felt shut down, because I said, all I request is that this with my sons, with my dad, I do something differently, but
Yes.
is that what I request, that I be given some time to speak my truth.
Yes, and that's fair enough. And the thing is too, it depends on the person as well. Because if you have someone who's completely closed down to that, which sort of my father's sort of in that position, then it's sort of like not going to get either of us anywhere to go there. But many people are partially open or even a lot open to being able to discuss. And so you have to sort of discern where the person's at as well, because you can waste time and energy, and you can feel conflicted within by wasting energy on that with people that are completely closed.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's a tricky one for
Yes.
all of us.
So
even the best communicators, you hear it constantly on alternative media, you know, the greatest communicators, you know, we're all being challenged with the same thing, and so are the people that love us.
Yes.
You know, they're bewildered. It's like, what's happened to my mother? What's happened to my sister? What's happened? You know, so both sides are facing this, but as you say, our best, we've got to come back to love, and even the people is to have respect and love for them, and even people that drive us crazy sometimes, you know, because we don't know what's going to happen to them or their families, or what they're going to be dealing with. And they're human as well, though that's a question mark a bit. You know,
that's true.
with,
You know,
with these things, what might have been manipulated, but it is a very, very challenging time for everybody. So it's like, not to beat yourself up if you are feeling upset that you can't get the message through. Just go with love and talk about the things. Speak to someone's values. That's another way. Like John De Martini, he used to always talk about that with getting young people to speak, to do their schoolwork or whatever. If you can speak to what they value, like a young guy, it might be surfing or whatever it is. It's like, hook the conversation, whatever you want to talk about, into the teenagers or the adults' highest values. Find out what, or somebody that you know really well, you know what their highest values are, because
yes.
it's what they speak about, the sort of things they buy, the sort of things they do.
Yeah.
So that's a way of saying, oh, did you hear something related to that? Or have you heard or whatever? There's ways, but, you know, that's when we're talking about all this conversation, the agenda conversation, but just generally in life, to connect with people, speak to their values and to their world.
Yes, I hear you. I did a really informative chat and got some amazing comments with it, of people really appreciating it, with a guy called Jason Christoph, who's a world expert on the areas of, you know, mind control programming and all that sort of thing. And he talks about one of the number one factors that is being put out intentionally in the world at the minute, with everything going on, is a really high level of confusion about what is truth, what is not truth. And that in itself has the ability to completely shut down communication, shut down our ability to be able to speak about anything, because when you're getting all different information about all different things and you don't know what's going, it's like, what do you say? So it's teaching us discernment and knowing that is actually part of the agenda that creates that sort of lack of clarity on what is really going on, that is intentionally designed to divide humanity and to divide the unity that it so desperately seeks to avoid. Because when we come together, then their rule is over.
Yeah, we've got power.
Mm.
We've got incredible power. Yeah, and it's the gaslighting that's sending people crazy.
Yeah.
Like they say the opposite to the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And make it's like, well, it's narcissism.
Mm.
It's what a psychopath does. It's like
Mm.
they'll what they accuse you of is what they're doing.
Yes, exactly.
And it does. It screws with your mind. It screws with your heart. It's unnerving and it's incongruent. So we can feel it in our body that it's incongruent. It's like when someone's lying, the body sort of picks it up because there's some vibration that's incongruent, or there's some words that are incongruent.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing, and the body knows.
It's like when you hear a truth and you get tingles all down your spine, because it's a universal truth and your body is resonating with it as truth, and you feel it often literally down your spine as energy going up and down. I know I do. So it's the same, but in the reverse, when it's not a truth, you're getting all these signals in your body. And I guess it's teaching us, isn't it, to have our own inner barometer or radar for what resonates with us as truth, and learning to differentiate that, to feel that when we feel that incongruency, as you talk about, how does that feel? What does that mean? And straight away knowing, okay, that's what happens to me when something doesn't resonate. And then being able to learn from that, and then use that as your own inner guide for what you will digest as truth and as not truth.
Isn't this truth topic? I would love a big workshop on truth. Truth, what is truth? There's universal truths or laws of truths.
Yes.
There's truth as in it can be measured.
But isn't truth
something's measurable? And there's also, but the other interesting thing is like people say this is my truth. Right? So somebody will say my truth is global warming is true. Right? Or climate change is true. That's my truth.
It's not my truth.
However, I don't think that's truth.
No.
Or anything that we might say, this is my truth. I'm interested in how you see this, but there are truths that are measurable and things that work and don't work, which become truths to me, like universal truths. But my truth might be just a perception, or it might be just a belief, but it's not a truth.
Well, there are certain things that are universal truths. For example, that love is a very important quality in the world that exists as a glue that binds humanity together. That is a truth. It's a universal truth. You can't deny it. There are certain things that are universal truths, but then there are truths based on our own consciousness and our perception of things.
But can you call them truths? See, this is a tricky thing.
Personal truths?
Or can we say it's my truth? It'll be my perception or I don't know, I'm playing with this. It's like
Sure.
we're all dealing with this. Yes, and there's the universal laws that govern life, gratitude, forgiveness. There's hundreds of them, really,
Yes.
of
Yes.
cause and effect. They're truths.
Mm, mm.
What you sow, you reap. The law of belief. All these universal laws that make life work when we're in that flow.
Yeah.
And see, one of them too, a universal law, is what we resist persists.
Yes. Yes.
So if we keep going against somebody or saying, I disagree with you, we go against it, we get more of the same. It actually makes it worse rather than saying, like what my son says to me, oh, it's interesting that you think that. Thanks for sharing that.
Because
So
he's
it's actually, there's no resistance. And then the conversation, the person feels heard.
yes.
Oh, that's interesting. You think that. Oh, what makes, how do you see that? You can expand it a bit more. And then you can say, well, this is how I see it. So you have then a dance with that universal law of what you go against. If you go against something, it gets worse. That's well known. Like Mother Teresa, although she's a Christian. Mother Teresa.
Oh, big question mark.
You know,
Super
we
big
know
one.
why the people who have been down the rabbit holes, but it's like, but she said, I will never march against war. I will march for peace. Apparently, that's something what she says, which is that thing. I think we have to be careful in the movement that we're in, that we're not going against something, we're going for something.
Because it can give energy to it and magnify it. Yeah, magnify it. And I think that's why I was listening to this great talk the other day, and this lady, she was saying how, when you say I'm going against the government and when you oppose the government, you're externalizing everything in that's happening in your reality. But when you go within and you say, what are the elements within me that are creating a government like that exists in my reality? And then going within and changing those things within you. Maybe there's, for example, separation or mistrust or fear of authority or something like that within you that you need to actually address, that is externalizing this reality for you in your world.
That's right. It's the shadow of the government, but they're only a reflection of us.
Exactly.
Look at the parts of us that need to be healed, that need to be where we're not whole, where we're not functioning in a way that's for the highest interest of our own life, the people around us. Like our outside world will show us, it reveals to us where we're out of balance.
Yes.
Because that's the nature of the universe. And the law of attraction, or everything's mirroring back to us what's not functioning within ourselves.
Yes.
So correct, 100%. So we are just a mirror, because and also, as you know, we've been really she'll be right, mate, and we've given away our power to authority.
Yes.
Yes. And we've taken our hands off the reins, and we've been sloppy. And I think that's what people do in relationships too. We become complacent and take them for granted and think that we don't have to put work into them.
Yes.
But relationships are like a business and a garden. We have to constantly be looking at what's working, what's not working, what we can improve, pull out the weeds, plant something new, reposition things, do harder work in one area than another area. It's A lot of people go into relationships, they go into marriages, they think, oh, I've got my partner, and they become sloppy, and they wonder
Yes.
why their relationship isn't working. So you're correct. It's like the government are just a reflection of us, unfortunately. Although I wonder, there's a lot of narcissists and psychopaths in the government.
Yes. Yes.
In ordinary relationships, that's probably only 10% in the world, 10% maybe, who knows exactly in the wider world. But unfortunately, those 10% seem to rise to the top. But we all have an element of narcissism and hedonism in us. We have to look at that. Where am I being selfish? It's all about me, 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 me,
Yeah, there's some great points you make there about, just existing in the world on autopilot without being mindful, that mindfulness, that quality, that Buddhist quality of mindfulness of when you're interacting in your life, how are you being mindful in that way? Or are you just reacting as opposed to consciously making choices about how you're going to function? And I think, like you say, in relationships, that's one area where people can really do that, and to the detriment of their relationships, and particularly partner relationships too. I want to announce our exciting news too, on that note, that Jane and I are going to be offering on Monday the 13th of February, which is the day before Valentine's Day, a 1.5 hour, a 90-minute seminar workshop called 7 Keys to Conscious Fulfilling Relationships. And this workshop will empower you with more skills and gifts in all your relationships, including your partner relationships. And we thought it would be the perfect day to offer it the day before Valentine's Day. So this is really exciting. So if you're interested, the links will be below and the information to go on board and book. What sort of things do you think you'll be really focusing on with this workshop too, Jane?
Okay, so this is what I thought for the 7 keys that might be really interesting for people is, number one, why we need to take 100% responsibility in relationship. A lot of people think it should be 50-50, but let's look at 100% responsibility. Number two, uncovering your limiting beliefs that will be sabotaging emotional and physical intimacy. That's an interesting one because we need to find them to recreate them. Number three, how to transform limiting beliefs. Number four, discover who you have been being in relationships. So that's like
archetypes, is it?
Yeah, the character you've been playing, the games that you've been playing in order to be validated and try and get what you want in relationship. But it's actually what sabotages us, and we've got to look at that character. It's very interesting. I say to people, imagine you're at the Princess Theatre in Melbourne and you're up on the stage and we put you up there. So what sort of woman or man are you in relationship? What would you tell the director of the play? What's
your role?
What role you're playing, and how woe is me, what is your woe is me? It's a fun way to look at it, right? So number five, discover what is missing that will make a difference. So then we can explore, go into like, who are you really, and who do you really want to be moving forward in that aspect. Then there has to be one, of course, on how to resolve conflict to create win-win outcomes. We've covered that a little bit now.
So people can come with, their relationship issues written down, these are the things I want to work on. And you can tie them into all these things that we're going through, but where are the areas that they can improve on the issues that they've brought in relation to these aspects?
Yes, come in with an intention or an issue you'd like to work on.
Yes,
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 absolutely.
yes.
And then there's more chance you're going to see, hear, or have an insight, a breakthrough, or something that's going to make a difference for you.
Mhm.
And then how to live by the spiritual laws of life for greater relationship harmony.
Oh, I love that one. That's
Mm.
beautiful. Yes. Because sometimes you can have a concept of what being spiritual is, but you're not actually bringing it necessarily into your life in practical ways. You know what I mean?
Correct, 100%.
Yes, yes.
So
And
Medina said to me quickly
yeah,
what we might be covering. So there's some thoughts at the moment. It might slightly change, but
yes. Oh, that's fantastic. You know, who at the moment, who is not working on some aspect of relationship somewhere in their lives? I mean, everyone is really when you think about it, because also the other aspect of that is that, you know, when we're working on relationships with people around us, we're working on ourselves. So they're a mirror to us working on ourselves, and we're all working on ourselves. We're all working on our own evolution, and the relationships in our lives are just reflecting back to us what we're working on within ourselves. So who's not working on relationships? I can't think of anyone. Maybe Jesus. I don't know. But he's not here right now, although Christ consciousness is, but you know, in that form necessarily. So
yes, you have to live on another planet, not to be working on relationships, unless you've decided to be a hermit and
that's true. Which
and
is
live in the
always
mountain
tempting.
by yourself. But I guess you've got to have a relationship with yourself, right? Living
Well,
in
that's
on
right.
a
You
mountain
can't
where you
escape that, because you still
can't.
got that. Even if you go to a mountain in Tibet and you go and hide, and you're going to be looking at yourself at some point, because when you go into that internal quiet space, all your things will still come up in the same way. So yes, I think that's what our 3D density reality does here, doesn't it? It allows us to really look at all the density and the shadow stuff. It is a facilitator for us to do that. And in that way, it's a gift, it's an opportunity.
It is a total gift. It's a
Mm,
total gift for our evolution of our consciousness, so that we move from the bottom floor of the building.
mm.
So that hopefully what we're meant to be doing is moving up the floors,
Yes,
so that we get up to the higher levels, so that we have greater awareness and we can see things in a different way. A bit like, it's interesting though that there are people that can have great awareness in the freedom space, in our groups in the freedom movement,
mhm.
greater awareness and understanding of the bigger picture. But it's interesting, in their own lives, some people are really can't see it in their own life. I find that the most fascinating thing. They're in their everyday life. They're
Yes, they have
on a
blind
different,
spots.
a lot of blind spots, and
Mm,
haven't done a lot of work on themselves at all. So I do believe that I've come to the conclusion, you probably have too, that people are chosen for this, to be lighthouses
mm.
period of time, to spread the truth and the spiritual truths and the truth of what's going on in the world, so we can break through out of this dense matrix.
Absolutely.
And um, it's just interesting. It's very interesting. And also that the more conscious spiritual people, some of them have got no understanding of this matrix that we're living in.
Mm.
So fascinating.
It is.
No,
Do you think everybody has a blind spot somewhere?
oh, we all do. Yes,
Yes.
100%. That's why we've got to keep
Chipping
doing the
away.
work, and also our
Yeah.
relationships, and particularly our sons and daughters, and as they're our greatest mirrors, because they shine back at us and butt up against us, or they'll call us out on things, and vice versa. We are that to them. They're our closest relationships and our intimate partners too.
Mm.
They're our greatest mirrors.
Yes, they are. And like you say, it is easy with a partner who's there all the time. and you're spending all this time with them, to not really fully value their existence. And it's only often, when people have a partner who perhaps unexpectedly passes or is taken away, that they realize the enormous depth of the relationship and the gap that is there when the person's not there, and they haven't necessarily been mindful of that in every moment in that relationship with them. I mean, you don't want to be in fear, with the person when you're with them, that will happen, but you also want to be mindful that that person is with you on this journey for a reason, and that the absence of that personal energy of that person is probably not really fully understood until it happens. You know what I mean? Mm.
Yes, and I think, like, I got present, probably 15, 17 years ago. I always had difficult relationship with my mother, and I'd fight with her. I mean, it's part of the reasons why I'm involved in relationships, because it's been my journey to learn about relationships and sexuality, and to understand it at a deeper level. And so I've had to become, turn myself inside out and become the person and the teachings that I teach, so that I'm not a hypocrite.
Yes.
And how can I heal my relationship with my mother? I'm doing all this work around relationships, but that was the one thing I was really stuck on. And the thing that I had to get present to was exactly what you're saying, that if she died, and this is, it's a teaching, like, if that person that you don't get on with dies tomorrow, you're left with guilt. People are left with guilt and remorse, and what they didn't say, what they didn't do. So a lot of my teachings in relationships are also about conversations of forgiveness, and with people before, and bridging the gap that's been occurring with the people that you love. And I ended up, what I had to do was to go deep into compassion for my mother and think, what is it like for her to be with me?
Yeah.
Right? I had to get present to what a bitch, a bitch, I had been to my mother. Like, I was all the time thinking, my mother should apologize to me. She was my mother. She criticized me the whole time. She did this, she did that. And, the awakening is like, but who am I? It's that thing about who am I being in relationship. I was horrible to my mother. Pushed her away, talked about her behind her back. I mean, shocking. And I had to clean that up with my mother. I did. I had this conversation and apologized to her that I hadn't been the daughter that she wanted me to be. Now, that's a big conversation, but I had to get to the place where I wanted to cry for my mother that I hadn't been the daughter that she wanted me to be.
Very interesting. Yes. Yes.
And it wasn't until I did that and I had a totally different conversation with her that everything changed. And that, Wayne Dyer used to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, I saw my mother in a different light. She didn't annoy me like she did. Her voice didn't annoy me so much. Everything. I can't go into the conversation I had with her, but I can do that in this workshop, because it's a very special technique that you can use to bridge a gap between somebody that you've got a distance with, or you've got a break with.
Yes. And do you think though that there are some relationships that they're just so disparate? The consciousness is so different. They're so like there, for example, you might want to you might have been making overtures to be able to heal the relationship, or to be able to have a relationship with someone, but they're so disconnected and so not wanting to have that connection, that you just also have to at times just learn to let go and surrender. You can send them love from a distance, but you just also have to sometimes just surrender those. Isn't that the case also? Because otherwise people can have a feeling of guilt or something that, I've got to fix it, I've got to do something, but the other person's not going to want that or open to that. So, there's nothing that you can do. I mean, I know that that's with certain people in my life. I've had that experience that, I felt like I was making a lot of effort constantly and it was being met with a slam door. And then at some point you go, no, I'm just going to surrender that, let them go, love, I'll send love from a distance, but it's not serving my highest good to be sort of trying to, it's that resistance thing where they keep resisting and you're persisting and nothing's happening. So don't you think that's off?
Yeah, occasionally, yes. But I also think sometimes it's a cop-out. It can be a cop-out for not wanting to take 100% responsibility, and for not it's like the big thing I get with my clients is, why should I apologize to them? So, but it's got to really come from your heart. I do agree with you. Sometimes you do have to, 100%. And obviously with narcissistic type personalities, and there are some people you won't be able to, but the majority of the time, I believe miracles can occur when we get into our heart. So the first thing I did with my mum, I won't go into the details, but the first thing, people totally will get on a different foot. If you ring them up and you say, with a heartfelt, you ring them up and you say, have you got a few minutes? I'd love to talk to you. I just want to apologize to you. Now that gets people, nobody's going to go, because it's different to what you've probably normally done, Probably it's a technique that usually isn't done, because most people think, I'm not going to apologize to them because they should be apologizing to me and they did this to me, and if there's an element of blame still there, it won't work. It's tricky. It's really tricky.
What about, I've got a question. What about if the person has potentially, thinking a scenario, they've apologized before and then it hasn't been accepted on some level and their door's been shut, and then so they're coming back with another apology? Is like it a constant thing? You just keep apologizing, or how does that work? Or do you just at some
point? I think sometimes, if Anthony Robbins always says, communication is the response we get. So I do notice that with this technique, and you have to go deep into compassion in your heart, and really know what it's like for them to be with you, or what they may have experienced with you. It's tricky.
Yes.
It's a very deep process you have to go into. And most people haven't done the process to know how to do it properly, so it backfires, or it's trying to come from a fix rather than from a deep place of compassion and love.
We're covering the workshop. Will that be going into some of those processes?
Yeah, well, maybe after the first one we can go deeper into things. Probably on the first introduction one, we mightn't be able to go deeper into that, because it's quite extensive. But
yeah,
as you know, there's so many
layers
to things, but we can certainly talk about that, because I know the conversation I had with my mother, I thought it backfired. right? I thought it backfired, which I can go into, but what it did was it shifted the energy. It was like it cleared. I let Mum say everything that she thought about me, everything. Because you got to remember that other person has got stored anger and resentment towards you. Doesn't mean to say it's true.
Yeah.
It's their perception. It's like it's your perception, how they've been to you. It's just their story.
Yes.
But they're holding pain against you.
Yes.
So when I may as well say it, when I rang up to apologize to my mother, she went, and I came from a deep place of heart. I said, Mum, I'm sorry I haven't been the daughter, that you've wanted me to be. I wasn't there, when my brother died, I wasn't there for, and I started saying, I've pushed you away. And she butted in and she said to me, I've been waiting 30 years for you to say this, to apologize to me. And you did this when you were 12. You did this when you were 18. You said this. You did this. You did. It was like a gun being shot at me.
Yeah.
And I never, ever interrupted her. I said, I know, Mum. I know. I'm sorry. That's why I'm ringing you, because I want to create a better relationship with you. I want to apologize. Now, I never said but, I never justified. I let her just go bang, bang. She went on probably for 20 minutes. It was like I was being shot. Now, most people don't do that, because I've done it with other people. Most people don't do that. They'll end up owning their own stuff and apologizing. You usually will get an apology from them too, if it's done in a heartfelt way. But my mother didn't apologize at the end, and I just kept on saying, yes, Mum, I just want to create a better relationship. I got off the phone. I thought that didn't work.
Yeah.
But it did work. It took a few months, but was like I allowed my mother to clear all the rubbish out of the river.
Yeah.
So the river of love started to
flood again.
to flow again, and she was able to get rid of. I gave her the gift of being to get rid of all the resentment she had against me.
So it's like emptying the rubbish bin, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Allowing.
It takes a lot of courage for you to sit there and just get that volley coming at you, because you have to really be in that space, in that really centered
not to be triggered,
where you're not taking it on personally, on some level. And that can be really hard for people. I'm thinking that even with the workshop, if people wrote down the name of a person that they're wanting to work on, and then they come in with that approach of the name of, this is the person, my relationship with them I want to work on, and then they go through the questions and these sorts of things, that can be a way, if they don't know what specific questions to come with, they could just write a person's name down and say, that's the person I want to work with, because everyone's got one of those.
Everybody has, yes. Yeah, it could be a friend,
Yes. Or somebody just from the past, even in their school, or some in the present. Yeah, everyone has. Yeah.
Yes, and that's where we'll get inner peace, is by clearing and apologizing, like even apologizing to past partners, to create an empty space to be able to create a new relationship. It's like it's what is it called in the Christian world? It's repenting.
Yes.
Repentance. And and Jesus taught, like forgiveness is one of the greatest,
it's key,
teachers of life.
There's a famous quote about that. I'm going to put it in here actually, but it's from a guy in America who's a great spiritual teacher. His name's escaping me at the minute, but he says that at the base of every spiritual belief system, there is a foundation for forgiveness in every single one of those spiritual traditions.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. And I use that a lot with my clients, because I know it frees us, you know. Otherwise, you know, that saying, if you haven't forgiven someone, you're the one taking the poison. You're the one taking the poison because you're bitter towards them.
Yes.
So the bitterness goes into your body, and it's eating. It's what, you know, some of the things that cause cancer and disease, because we are not at ease.
That's
We are
right.
not at ease, you know.
And even if you don't have them in your space, like say you're not in contact or something like that, you can still go in on the inner and do what I call soul conferencing, which is when you envision that person in front of you and you do those forgiveness techniques on a soul level, you know, where you speak to them on the inner. And that is pretty much just as powerful as well, you know, if you can't do it in other ways. So yeah.
I think, yes, absolutely, that can shift things as well. The difference that I see, that if you can speak to somebody, like I've even had a girl that was sexually abused do this exercise. I mean, and people would say that's a horrifying thing to do, but it was so powerful for her. But
So she apologized to the person that sexually abused her.
her father, do you know why? That she apologized to him, that she hadn't forgiven him, and she wanted to understand why he had done what he wanted to do, why he had done it, and it was incredible.
Right. Fascinating.
That can't always be done again. But this girl couldn't work out why she couldn't. She wanted to get married. She wanted to have a boyfriend, but she couldn't hold a guy. And this was, you know, this was what was playing out. And so she was so determined that she wanted to shift this, that she did it. See, you've got to be willing. You've got to be willing to go to those really deep places and really pull stuff out of you. But it's through the conversation. She got answers by having the conversation, you know.
And you do it for yourself predominantly, not for them anyway. Like the person that was the most horrible to me in this lifetime, like they were really malicious, really horrible. I went round to them and I took flowers and a card, and I said, you know, we need to forgive and let go and release. And then from that moment after I did that, I don't know what it did for them. Probably made no difference from their end because of their mindset. But for me, it was like all gone. It's all gone now. It's all released. I didn't have to think about it anymore. It was just gone.
Yeah. So that's and you might have been ready to do that, release it, right?
Yeah.
It's a readiness too. So then the other question is, so what is forgiveness? How do you know you're forgiven? Because people will say, oh yeah, I forgave my mother years ago or whatever.
Oh, well, you have to actually feel it in your heart center, or feel it on some level. You can't just be saying it in your head. I remember there was a person that I did a healing with, and they had to do because their father was coming into this realm because it was unresolved, this relationship that they had with this person. And so they needed to do a true forgiveness in order for this person to be able to be released and go to the light. And so they said, I forgive you. But it wasn't really heartfelt. They were just saying it because they knew that they were saying in a rote way the words that they thought that they needed to say, but they weren't feeling it. And I said, well, look, nothing's happened because it wasn't in your heart. You know, you didn't feel it when you said that. You have to actually go in and actually really feel what you're saying. And so then they did it again, and they went in on the heart, and then they said it from their heart, you know, for a completely different energy. And then I felt all this energy, and the father was released and went to the light.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's this, and how do you know you've forgiven is a very interesting one. How do you know you've really forgiven? Is that it doesn't enter your head again to talk badly or think about that person. It actually
Neutralizes.
It's like it's not in your consciousness. Like you might be able to talk about your mother from a self-awareness point of view rather than like for me, like in a negative way, which I did years and years ago. I mean, 15 years ago that I did this exercise, but it's like, you know that you're forgiven because you're more heartfelt for that person and you go deeper into your heart. And also it's not in that person, that negative thoughts about that person disappear. It's not in
Yes,
your
yes, yes. You
consciousness.
have no need to talk about them anymore or to say anything. It's just like doesn't come into your consciousness.
No. And if they're brought up in conversation from somebody else, you don't go into the negative or you don't go back into that, the nasty stuff that you had. Yeah. It's a very I think forgiveness is the most incredible topic.
It's fascinating. I mean, yes, it's an endless topic, isn't it, really? Yeah, because I think when you have a sense of being neutral, you don't get emotionally triggered. You're able to just stay relatively calm, peaceful. Your mood doesn't change. Your energy doesn't shift when you think about them or talk about them. It's that sort of like a neutral state, perhaps. Yeah.
It's a fascinating topic, and this is what we've lost our society because of all the agendas that have been put out there. We've lost. Okay, for me, I grew up a Christian, but I did know about forgiveness, but I didn't really understand it. I mean, we weren't taught. It's only been through quantum physics, and for me, through Buddhism, exploring Buddhism and lots of the laws of life, and that I've been able to come back and understand the teachings of Jesus. I've come back around because growing up, the Christian church didn't make sense to me. I sort of got it on a level, but not to the level I needed to live my life by.
Yeah, when it's being rammed down your throat and like indoctrinated, you have a natural sort of resistance where you don't want to take it in. But when you come to it of your own volition and you understand the spiritual sort of laws behind it, that's a different thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that, well, as we know, the teachings of Jesus were prostituted.
Yes.
Jesus would be horrified what was being taught in his name. I don't know whether you read the books Conversations with God.
Oh, I did, yes. Beautiful. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And I also heard somebody, powerful spiritual teacher said, and psychic said the other day, she said that the star seeds, the light workers, the awakened ones are coming back because Jesus couldn't finish the job when he was here, and that we're coming back to finish the job, which is to bring
Christ consciousness.
Yeah, back onto the planet with divine unconditional love, forgiveness, and all those things that we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting whether Jesus will come back physically, which I tend to believe it's the Christ consciousness will return to earth.
Into people.
Because I think if Jesus came back to earth and he said he was Jesus or something, it's like no one would believe it. It'd be the same old thing over again. He'd be stoned and persecuted, and people would call him a heretic and that he wasn't real. I mean, I don't think it would work personally.
And the other side of things is other people would hero worship and put him up on a platform and idolize him, which is not what he wants either. It's sort of like also with our star family, our galactic family, they want to come and communicate and interact with us, but we have to be mature enough as a species, as beings, to be able to allow them to come in and to interact in a way where we don't put them above ourselves and say, well, they know everything, we know nothing. And, you know, because then you're disempowering yourself and you're not being sovereign, and that's against everything that they would want. Same sort of thing. So yes, we just need to become much more aware and mature in the way that we interact with these types of energies.
Yeah, the kingdom of God lie within.
Mm.
We're co-creators.
Yes. Yeah,
with
we have all that
the angels or the intergalactics, whoever are our whoever's in this intelligent field that's within us and outside of us. Amazing.
Yes, amazing times. Oh, it's been so wonderful to chat with you, Jane. We've really chatted for quite a while, and it just went so fast. You're just like, where did that time go? So
do you want to finish off with how we see, just quickly, the future of humanity?
Absolutely. Go for it.
So that we leave things on a positive note.
Exactly. Perfect.
So for me, I think we're going to have some major things happen still that are going to be painful for people. This is my perspective.
Yeah.
Probably like the stock market crashing and real estate crashing. There's going to be
people more adverse things from this.
Yes, we're going to have pain with people that we've loved, or I feel that's going to come out more because the dam is bursting, which will really awaken people. It's going to make them very distraught as well. We're going to need to be there for them. And also I believe that big tech will be pulled down. Facebook will be pulled down.
Sorry, big
tech.
Oh yes, yes.
Big tech, like it'll either be pulled down completely and redone, or else it'll be taken over in a benevolent way and used for the highest good of humanity. But it won't be, these things will change. The money system's going to change for the good. I don't believe that the bad guys are in control of.
No, I agree with you.
The money financial system, I believe, is hooked up. There's going to be a difficult time changing that over. It's in the background. They're just letting it play out, showing people what was going to happen, and they have to use what's going on to for time to be able to hook in the good things.
It's interesting because there's so much in information out there which is really deeply fearful about, you know, obviously the cabal's intended direction for what they wanted humanity to happen, you know, hooked into their, you know, digital ID system and just completely controlled through, you know, these and all those sorts of things. You know, there's some really disturbing, dark scenarios that you can read about on, you know, when you go on and read about, you know, the things that are being revealed. But it's to really understand that these were potentials, but we have overcome those potentials and that they won't happen, and not to feed the loose or the energy of the dark by going into thinking that they are still going to happen, or that you know, that they are going to manifest on some level, because that is just playing into their hands. So it's a really a very intricate process at the moment to be aware of what's going on and to be awakened and to know about everything, but to not take on board any of this. You know, some of it that you read, it's like, oh, just awful, and the energy of it, just, you know, you can feel it. So it's not taking that on board and knowing that we've gone into a higher timeline, and we've gone into, you know, the golden age, as Ian Welsh talks about, and we're manifesting this highest potential now, and that all that stuff that sure was definitely something that was what they wanted to create, these controllers, it's just not going to happen. And to even if you have to read about it, just not to feel the feelings of how it feels if that actually did happen.
And also, I think for everyone, you can take action. Send letters. There's letters around you can send to pharmacists and to places. Walk in and you can say something to them or present them with some information. Do you realize this? Or whatever. You can take action.
Everyone can make a difference in that way.
Everyone can make a difference. Don't just sit back and worry about everything that's happened. Trust in there's going to be a restoration of the world.
And you feel better, don't you, Jane? When you actually take action and do something, rather than sitting around and just reading about all this stuff that's coming out. You know, when you actually do something constructive like that and take action, it feels good and it feeds your soul. So and then it empowers you as well, because you're standing in your sovereign empowerment. You're not just sitting at home cowering with it all. You're doing something and taking action. And this is one of the processes of being empowered and being a sovereign being, is to not only think about what you want, but actually taking the action as well.
That's right. Like even yesterday, I had a lady ring me up a charity, which I think's okay, for some money, and I gave some money, and I started talking about. Somehow I brought it up about that I don't trust a lot of the charities, and don't trust the government and big pharma and things that are going on, and she revealed to me that she's been injured. She hasn't been able to walk since this.
Exactly.
So I've sent her information. I told her about Dr. McCulloch coming out and sent her information. They're sold out.
Wow, great. I did the same thing yesterday because we had aerial spraying around here. So I rang the council to ask them about what they're spraying. And I found out what they're spraying to get rid of the mosquito larvae. And I said, well, I'm concerned because I have read that in Queensland, a company called Paxvax are intending to spray the sea material in the skies. And so I just wanted to make really certain that what you were spraying was not any of that stuff, because we need to really stand up against this. And I said that to him as well in the conversation. So it just those sorts of conversations for a start. Yeah.
That's right. Just talk to someone on a tram or open up a conversation. You never know where it's going to go.
Yeah.
Be courageous. Yeah. That's what we're here for. That's what we're chosen to do.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Jane, for your time. That was an amazing chat. Got so much out of that. And don't forget, everyone listening, that if you like what we've discussed and you'd like to work on any aspect of your relationships in your life, whether it be a partner or family members or friends or anyone, or even just working on yourself, the relationships, as we say, are a reflection of how you feel about yourself. Please join our workshop. It's going to be incredible. I'm sure you'll get some great learnings from it. And the links will be below. We're trying to keep it very reasonable for everyone. It's going to be a 90-minute workshop. And it's going to be the day before Valentine's Day. So then after you've done this, you'll be feeling fantastic to celebrate your Valentine's Day and spoil your partner rotten if you have one. So thank you, Jane. Lovely to chat. And we'll look forward to connecting again very shortly.
Fantastic, Medina. Loved it. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to doing the workshop with you. That'd be great.
Yes, that'll be so much fun. It'll be fantastic.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.